We've got some big news coming out of Walt Disney World today about changes with Photopass, photographers being replaced, and it's some big changes. Stay tuned. So I actually first heard about these changes that are coming a couple days ago, and I've been sitting on it while I have been trying to confirm and check and talk to some other people. And then not only had I done that, but then this morning it started breaking on online websites. WDW, which is a great source of Disney news, a couple blogs, and a couple other sites have all been posting confirmations. Disney is actually going to be pulling its photographers out of many of its indoor character locations and replacing them with automated computer controlled cameras. This is something that they have tested in the past and got really bad reactions to. It is something they actually even tested all the way back before Photopass started. In fact, if you go way back, before Photopass started, when Kodak was still in the park, Disney actually started testing out some automated cameras that people would be able to go up and get pictures of their family, say, in front of the castle. There was actually one box that they tested for a while at Casey's Corner. Didn't work too well, and they sat on it. When I was there was actually a short time that they tried an automated camera, and it also didn't work, and it was a short-lived experiment, and they ditched it. Well, here we go. Several months back, they started testing a new system again. Got a lot of negative feedback, but then they had this little thing happen with the unions where they signed a brand new contract to almost double many of the cast members' wages. Well, lo and behold, Disney starts saying, we've got to save every penny we can. It's why you see the food prices have gone way up, why they're charging for parking at the resorts now, if you're staying at them, why they're cutting back cast members in other places, such as the Citizens of Hollywood. And now here's where it comes to Photopass. And let me show you a couple pictures that are online. This is actually from one of the blogs that has posted confirmation pictures. And these are the brand new cameras that have just gone into Adventures Outpost. You can actually see them right there built into the wall. These just showed up in the last week. So they are brand new. They are not part of an old test. This is where you would scan your Magic Band. These are the cameras. Now, like I said, these are a brand new thing that have just shown up. This just got popped on today from Prospective Pixie Dust, which is an on-site blog. They do a number of different things there. This is them taking a system they tried out a few months ago, and let me actually show you what it used to look like a few months ago. This is Backdoor Disney on Twitter. And what they had tried before in the Tink Room on Main Street was actually this big green box that would hold the camera. And it made it very interesting. You know what? I just realized I don't have my microphone here, so I hope you've been able to hear me okay. Hopefully that's a little bit better. And so you can see these boxes now, and the kinds of pictures it takes look like this. And this is a photo marked one from the test, and you can see that it is way off center, lots of trees, and the reason it's is watermarked because it was just a test shot. Backs of the people, it's a terrible looking photo. It really is. But Disney actually started meeting with its Photopass photographers and other cast members backstage in the last couple of days and let them know this is definitely coming. I can't tell you who or what or when because of various issues. I don't want anybody to get in trouble. But it is absolutely positively confirmed from people within the parks that this is coming. They're actually going to start using it within 2 weeks, which is not good because the feedback on the last test from those pictures was horrible. People hated it. But Disney right now is at this deal where they want to cut labor costs in any way they can since it's going to increase. And so this is how they're going to do it, is they're going to start chopping photographers and putting computerized cameras in. The idea is to get 7 or 8 photos of each group of people and let them kind of pick out what they like and then move on. There are 7 locations that they're going to be putting this in right now. And the idea and plan is for, by next summer, to basically have every indoor character location with these kinds of automated cameras and pulling all the photographers out. and not necessarily putting them in other places, but just removing the positions, and so therefore cutting out labor. The list of locations these are going into right now is Tinkerbell and Mickey on Town Square at Magic Kingdom, Fairy Tale Hall with the princesses at Magic Kingdom, the character spot locations at Epcot, the Star Wars Launch Bay characters at Hollywood Studios, Celebrity Spotlight, which is Olaf over at Hollywood Studios, the Red Carpet Dreams, which is where you meet Mickey and Minnie at Hollywood Studios, and Mickey and Minnie at Adventures Outpost at Animal Kingdom. All of those are due to be replaced with these computerized cameras here in the next 2 to 3 weeks. When I heard it, I was shocked. In fact, my first reaction was, no, they're not going to seriously do this, are they? Because every time they've tried it in the past, it has failed and failed miserably. But now, apparently, with dollars, they're just going to push it ahead and shove it on through. Terrible decision, in my opinion. A lot of people don't realize how much of a difference a live photographer makes. I've actually seen a couple posts online, well, hey, this will speed it up a little bit because the photographer's not slowing it down taking photos. The photographers don't actually slow it down, and they increase the speed with which things happen. They make everything easier because they tend to focus on the line while the photographer does it. Yes, Crazy Chill, it is only at Walt Disney World at this point, but don't be shocked if this expands. The photographers, because they can move around and just, even at a hug and shove or the crowded spots, they get shots that a computerized camera can't. The computerized camera is stuck in a wall. Somebody steps in front of the camera, well, there goes all those photos. You're not going to get anything. If somebody's got their back turned to the camera, like in the one picture I showed you, it's not going to get anything good. If Aunt Minnie is hiding behind somebody else and you can't see her, well, the camera on the wall doesn't care. If somebody's wearing an obscene or inappropriate shirt, which a Photopass photographer would catch and stop and repose them so you couldn't see it, camera on the wall's not going to care. It's going to end up getting a lot of photos that are going to be deleted or not come out. The camera on the wall can't use a guest camera to take the pictures. Just multiple issues here. There's actually a good chance it could slow down the line because people don't realize how much the photographers help that line and character flow move. And if you're eliminating a photographer, well, they're not replacing you with a character attendant because the idea is to cut labor costs. So you're going to have one person now working 2 spots. And it's going to slow that down a lot. Terrible idea. And honestly, there were a lot of us that when they tried it again several weeks back, we were like, oh, here we go again. It's going to fail as it always has. And they'll get a clue and stop. And to find out that they're shoving it through and installing it is just amazing. And it's appalling to me. Yeah, I'm kind of trying to look over some of the comments here. Undercover Mouse, it will fail again. I believe enough people will complain. Here's the problem that we're going to get with this. Because right now, this decision is really being pushed by money. The only thing that's going to really change this decision is if they see the sales drop off. If people are still buying the pictures in the same rate that they were buying before, if they're still buying the CDs and the online downloads at the same rate that they were doing before, it's not going to really change it. Complaints in this case, yes, there's going to be a lot of people complain, and Disney will say that we'll just weather the complaints for a while and people will get used to it, and then we can just keep expanding it because then they've gotten used to it. In fact, when Photopass first came in, there were people that were really kind of confused because all of a sudden Photopass was with all these characters, and there were actually some people that complained that, hey, I don't want a photographer there with me, until they got used to the system and realized that we weren't going to shove pictures on them. And at that time, Disney saw sales go up. Well, in this case, Disney's bottom line is, if sales don't drop, and, or even if they drop just a little bit, but we're saving all this money on labor, that's okay. As long as we're still making about the same amount of profit now as we did before, we're going to be happy with this. And especially when we start saving all the money we're not paying on the labor. And that's what really scares me with it, is because the whole goal is to eliminate the labor force and cut it down to save the money. So yeah, we can complain, but if people are still buying the photos, Disney's not going to worry one bit about the complaint. I don't know how much it's going to affect the lines, where they'll speed them up or slow them down, but this really bothers me. Kill King 110. I give this a year at most before they see revenue drop. Well, bring back Photopass. I hope so. I hope it doesn't take that long, to be totally honest. It really bothers me because the problem is the vast majority of guests at Walt Disney World, I don't think are going to care about the difference. You know, they've got their memory maker, they're going to get all these pictures, and hey, if we lose a couple and, you know, ours are sort of all right. Right now, here's the sad thing. I don't want to put this rudely. I don't think most guests at Walt Disney World are going to pay enough attention to care enough to complain, let alone, you know, cut the buy rate back down. Because Memory Maker is also mostly a pre-purchase deal, people will have spent the money in advance, get stuck with it, look at it and go, well, you know what, I'm not happy with it, but, oh well, we got other pictures that are worth it. And I don't think they're going to complain as much. And it's not going to be until months down the road, when a lot of feedback has hit people who are getting ready to visit again and don't buy the Memory Maker. So it's going to take a long time for it to cycle through, and I think Disney's just going to stick with it at that point. So, Stacey Gray, I hope this fails spectacularly. A box can't do half of what a human can do. I completely agree with you. I hope it fails too. You know, a couple things that, you know, I wanted to mention here is just how much they lose with the box versus a person. There are a lot of times, especially with fur characters, and if you look at a lot of these lists, you've got Mickey, you've got Minnie, you've got the characters at Character Spot, which are Mickey, Minnie, and Goofy, Star Wars Launch Bay, which is Kylo Ren and Chewbacca. You have characters that can't necessarily talk and communicate directly with the guests, who can't be on sign language, tell them where to go and when to get there and what order to do things. And the photographers really fill in a lot of that. So what's going to end up happening is they're going to have to take the attendant that's trying to run the line, and the attendant's going to be spending more time with the character, and the line's going to slow down. You're going to lose a lot of the smoothness, the interaction. Photographers interpret for them. Yeah, it's just a sad thing. Allison CC, no family won't be buying Memory Maker with this change. That's what needs to happen. There will still be photographers outside in the parks. They will still be taking pictures of, say, the castle and outdoor locations and things that move around. But eventually it will be to pull all the indoor locations that are fixed out. So they're not going to have to do that. By the way, thank you so much for the donation. I did see the name. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I didn't catch it earlier. It's really got me kind of wondering what's going to happen. Now, I am going back to Disney World in February. And I know somebody just mentioned they're going in January. Because I have an annual pass, I will get the pictures. And so I will definitely be able to compare the pictures in February compared to what they're getting now. And I'll be able to show you at that point the difference in quality and angle and other things. Very, very frustrating over it. Let's see. Space Save. When at the end of August got Photopass and lines for it were too long and wasn't worth the money. The hard thing with the Photopass photographers, if you're out in the park, is trying to catch them when the lines are shorter. When you first come in the park, they're long. When you leave the park, they're long. It's that middle of the day that's kind of a golden spot for it. But if you were with the characters and you go see them at all, then the lines you're seeing with the characters aren't going to change because of Photopass. So... and then, yes, Kathy Goodman points out all the on-ride videos, which are still there. And this is where I think Disney is going to kind of say, you know what, it's okay. They're still going to be getting people who want the Memory Maker for the on-ride photos. They're still going to be getting people who want Memory Maker for the in-park photos in front of the castle and the train station and Spaceship Earth. And I don't think that they're going to see that much of a difference on the character photos. Unless people decide, you know what? I really want those character photos, and they're not giving me good ones now, and so I'm just going to skip them all. Oh, Now in my description, I did post a link to the email address for guest relations at Walt Disney World. I would encourage you, please start sending them some emails. Drop them a note. Let them know that this is going to affect how you think about buying Memory Maker. Yeah, DLRP fans, bad April joke. Can't be serious. Unfortunately, they are serious. I'm honestly, I'm amazed. Like I said, my first reaction a couple days ago when I heard this was like, no, they're not really doing this. And then I got a couple messages and phone calls from people working on property and said, guess what just happened today and what they told us. I was like, really? You gotta be kidding. But wait till it becomes public. Well, now it's public on websites. Yeah, I don't know about you, but if I go to Disney, this is not the kind of character photo I want. I don't want the backs and sides of my heads. I want to be able to see us with the character. I want to see us zoom in. Just not good. Shadow Law. Is there a ton of people at Disney World on Christmas? Yes, there is. It's packed. Yeah, Bonnie D. Then they're going to need 2 attendants per fur character. And here's where it's really silly. To make it go effectively, yes, they would need 2 attendants, in which case they've just killed their labor savings. But what I'm afraid they're going to go back to is back before Photopass really got in with the characters. They actually used to run these things with just 1 attendant per character. They didn't do the pictures. They wouldn't necessarily be willing to use a guest camera to get the picture. And so they would kind of run it with 1. Well, now everybody and their brother and sister and cousin has a camera on their phone. Everybody wants pictures. So it's really become much more of a standard thing. And I'm afraid that Disney's going to try to go back to the way it was 20 years ago. And it's not going to run effectively that way. Trying to catch a couple of these things, a couple of comments here. I forget the glasses, but I want to make sure. Yeah, Disney is slowly breaking its own legs with these changes. And Bobby Green hits a big thing here. The atmosphere, the customer service, the guest relations are huge at Disney. This is what they're known for. But Disney, in the last few years, is kind of going back to a system that they tried at Disneyland back in the 80s, where it was pinch every penny we can, make every dollar we can. And as long as the people are here and spending money, it's going to be great. Well, if you remember back in the 80s and early 90s, the quality at Disneyland slowly began to go down. And then the attendance numbers slowly caught up. And it was a several-year process. But as they squeezed more money out of Disneyland, the quality of everything at the park went down. Food quality, maintenance quality, you'd see flaking paint and things falling apart. Customer service began to drop off. And eventually it led to a couple of bad accidents before people at Disney went, you know what? This isn't a good way to run our parks. Well, now we're seeing the same kind of thing happen at Disney World that happened back then, and apparently they didn't learn the lessons. Tammy Peterson, Disney fans need to band together, and while standing in line, make friends with the family in front or behind them, take photos with each other. That works up to a point, but then you're having to share your Photopass information back and forth, and it kind of can get shaky, unless you're taking your own photos on your own cameras. And that's a great way to do it. Hey, I'll use your camera, you use mine, and then we're not having to spend money for Disney. Okay, Bob Distel would love to complain. There's an email address in the description of this video. I will actually copy them here for you. Give me just a second and I will pull them up. And I'll actually copy them into the chat. There are 2 different email addresses that I would strongly suggest you use. Yeah, just kind of crazy what's going on with it. So give me just a second. I will get those pulled up. Let's see. Shadow Law. So the photos was a waste of money. Yeah, it may be. We'll see how it works out. Allison Cece, I look at this as a bad move on Disney's part. Yep, agreed. Like that the cruises have photographers, and I've seen how those photographers on the Disney Magic really take time with the guests. Now, the photographers in and around the parks are not going to change. They will still be there. So with the backdrops and interactions and magic shots, those photographers are all still going to be there. That's not going to change. It's just the ones that they actually are working with the characters. That's where it's going to get dropped out. So let me get these email addresses here for you. There are 2 of them that I want to give you. The first one here, I'm going to drop in right there, is guest services at Disney World. There is also another one for guest communications, and that is going to go in right below it there. And yes, definitely take advantage of those email addresses. Bobby Green, you'd be amazed at how many recent Disney changes have been used in class as bad examples. Isn't that horrible? Disney is the company that built the whole industry of guest services and guest relations and how to do it right. And now in the last few years, all of a sudden, Disney is flip-flopping and becoming the company that's being known for doing it wrong. That's terrible. It should be the opposite. They should be setting the good example. Absolutely terrible. Let's see. Anna Lee, from what I hear from Disney cast member friends at Disneyland, never quite recovered from those 80s era budget cuts. And that's the problem. As they go down this path, the parks are going to end up with issues and problems. Yes, they're building these huge new attractions to keep drawing people in, but other things keep getting cut by the side. If you want a great example of Disney World budget cuts in action, look at the monorails. I talked yesterday about the door falling off. They're literally falling apart. And while we hope that they canceled the theater at Magic Kingdom to replace it, there's been no actual word from Disney. And I wouldn't be surprised if they try to get these monorails that are still falling apart to keep running for several more years. It's Disneyland owned managed by the same management as Walt Disney World. Each park has separate local managers, but overall they're all under the park's umbrella of Disney. So they will get directions from up on high, but the local managers are all going to be trying to put money in their pocket and look good. So, let's see. Joseph Laser. I'd still get Memory Maker. I don't tend to go to the places listed. When meeting characters, I much prefer doing a character meal and use the Memory Maker for on the parks and rides. And Joseph, I don't think you're unusual here. I think that a lot of people are still going to do the same thing, which is why I don't think Disney's going to see a big difference in the bottom line, which is part of the reason that they're moving towards this system. Most people use Memory Maker around the parks, and for a lot of them, the characters are kind of an extra. And so if Disney is saving money on payroll, but not losing anything else on the bottom line because people are still using Memory Maker, I think they're seeing it as a win-win. Are they going to expand that to other Disney parks like Disneyland Paris? I have no idea yet. Now, Disneyland Paris is really a completely separate entity. They do things their own way, so I don't think it will affect Disney Paris so much. I would imagine eventually it will come to Disneyland. That is, if people don't complain to the point where Disney quits on it. But let's see. Hasn't any of the Disney parks won a Golden Ticket Award? Bad show. Body D, yes and no. The Golden Ticket Awards are really kind of a whole separate deal. They're an award system done by coaster and park enthusiasts. And they're really for many of the people that vote in it. There's almost like a thing in their mind that says, we will not vote for Disney because Disney would automatically win, and so we just ignore them. And then they vote for everybody else. So it does kind of work that way against Disney some, but I think eventually Disney's going to come down to the point where they're going to be the equivalent of Six Flags. And if you're not into parks, that is a terrible thing to say. Management cares only about money. Walt is rolling in his grave. I truly believe that. Things I see Disney doing is an advantage to Universal. Disney seems to be cutting costs as Universal seems to be spending. Universal is picking up a lot of the cues that Disney used to. There's still some things that they're not up to Disney's level when it comes to guest service and relations. But Disney really seems to be moving to the spend huge money on new attractions and ignore the old stuff and the people. And part of it is because Disney has had such huge attendance numbers for the last several years that they haven't had any incentive to worry about not cutting. They're making money hand over fist because no matter what they cut, people are still coming. Not caring that it is going to eventually snowball. And right now, their little snowball is, just up at the top third of the hill or so. But once it gets halfway, that thing's going to be a monster. And yeah, it's going to really hit him at this point. Let's see. I'm just trying to glance through. A company that makes billions and billions of dollars yearly is more than able to make significant improvements to its infrastructure and pay its workers a decent wage. I agree, Benjamin. They are, but they won't. Bottom line for any business is to make money. And when you're making billions in profits, you don't want to take a hit on that. Your shareholders don't want you to take a hit on that. Well, when they agreed to increase wages for all of the cast members across the whole Disney World resort, and for many of them, they're going from $8 an hour up to $15 over the course of the next year or two. That is a huge increase. Well, you're basically taking your labor wages and you are nearly doubling what you're spending. So just top of my head, we're talking probably anywhere from $500 million to $1 billion in increase. Disney's not going to throw those profits away. They want to keep that. So what are they going to do to cut all that back down? Well, hey, yeah, sure, we might be paying better wages, but if we're not paying it to as many people, still more profit. And that's the ultimate bottom line for a company like Disney, is profit. So if you want to see something change with Disney, you got to show them they're not going to be making the profit that they think they're going to. And Disney no longer is focused on customer service and guest relations and thinking that, hey, if we do all of this great, then the profit will come. Now they're like, we got to keep the profit first, and if we cut on these other things, as long as we're still making profit, so what? The thinking has changed drastically. Benjamin Owen, there's nothing wrong with Six Flags Parks. I have a great time every time I go. I enjoy Six Flags Parks, but there is no way they are on the same level as Disney. Not in theming, not in guest service, not in guest relations, not in maintenance, not in infrastructure. It's not even close. And I have friends that work at Six Flags. I know people at Six Flags, and they'll tell you that every time. They're in completely different realms. You might as well, don't want to go too much. Sorry, Ben. Six Flags is not even on the same level. Even though I did love Mr. Six and I got called him. So, do I ever see cast members going on strike or the park going through bankruptcy? Wildman, the cast members are not going to go on strike because they just voted for this brand new contract several months ago. And unfortunately, the writing was on the wall when they made the new contract that, hey, we're going to get these huge increases in our pay. I don't think a lot of them were realizing that Disney was going to cut the hours and the staffing levels. But no, because Disney is actually unionized and they agreed to these terms, no, they're not going to go on strike. Is the park going to go through bankruptcy? The only way it's going to go through bankruptcy is if it starts losing money. Well, they're making profits by the billions. So no, it's not going to go through bankruptcy. And as long as they're squeezing profit out, they're not going to worry about that. So, yeah. So, not a good situation. Taking the photographers out of the character rooms is a terrible thing. Like I said, we've got 7 coming up, supposedly by the end of November, and then by next summer, all the indoor character locations will have these automated cameras. So please, if you're concerned with this, gave you a couple email addresses in the chat. There's one in the description. Send a note to Disney. Let them know that they need to keep the photographers there. If you've gotten pictures with Disney, explain what a difference the photographers made in the room versus what a box would do. Explain the quality difference in pictures. Tell them, bottom line, that this is going to make a difference to whether you would pay for the pictures or not. That you'd be happy to continue to pay with Memory Maker, but if it had been a box, you wouldn't have done it. Let them know that you want people to still be working. Because if they cut out the people and put in boxes for something that really only a person can do effectively, if they don't see it in the bottom line, Disney's not going to change it and they're just going to continue to expand it. And then 15 years down the road, you'll walk into the park and you'll have boxes around the park. Get your picture in front of the castle here. Wave your band, stand in front of the camera. That's the ultimate end goal, is to get rid of the photographers entirely. They may not be saying that now. They may not even necessarily be, planning on it. But trust me, if they can make it work with the characters and go with boxes, then they will work on expanding it to everything else in the park and get rid of the photographers entirely. Not a good path to go on. So, there's the news out of Walt Disney World. There's the deal with the photographers. Please write to them. Tell them to get rid of these boxes, that they're horrible, that they don't work, that they're not going to go well. And bottom line is that it will affect your decision on whether to buy the pictures. And that will make the difference with Disney. Love to hear your feedback. Thank you to everybody commenting. Please continue to comment. Don't forget to drop comments below, and I will continue to feedback. You can also check in on the Facebook page as well. There's some discussion going on there, and I will also be talking there as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate it. Even for the couple that don't agree with me, that's okay. I appreciate your input. I hate to tell you, in a few years here, when I'll be giving you the I told you so's, but they will be coming. But thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in and joining me.